You are a TikTok star and rapper. And how do you recall your childhood in Poland?
My childhood in Poland is crazy because I was so young, and people always go to me, "Oh, you probably don't remember much, or you probably don't remember what it's like in Poland." But the scary thing is, I remember like everything, like from them times when I was like what I was 1 to 6 when I was in Poland. So I moved when I was 7, just turning 8. So kind of like 1 to 7, I was in Poland, and I remember everything. I remember playing in the sandpit. I remember going to school, nursery. I remember crying in nursery every single day because I didn't want to be there. Um, yeah, just running around doing childhood stuff. To be honest, it's crazy because I used to just run around the blocks, just doing crazy, naughty things that kids do. Do you know what I mean? Rolling around with older kids, and I'm still like wondering how my mum let me do that because I was so young. I was literally what 5, 6, and I was just doing stupid things with people I probably shouldn't have been doing. But yeah, it was good fun. I remember it being really fun, and I have nothing but good memories from that place, which is why I wanted to come back and film the music video there. So yeah, I remember loads.
Was it difficult for you, to acclimate to the UK? Because I think it was quite a big change for you.
Oh, 100%. It was a big change, but I don't think I'll call it difficult. Difficult's a bad word for it because I was so young, I didn't really realize what was happening. It was that age where you're kind of like making friends, but the friends that I had in Poland weren't like super strong friends. So it wasn't like I was left my whole life behind, if that makes sense. It was kind of like as a kid, you don't register what's happening, in it. My mum was just sort of like, "Yeah, we're moving. We're going to live in England." I was like, "Okay, cool." Do you know what I mean, like, you don't think of anything like that. My sister was only 2, so she didn't know anything, and I was like, what, 6, 7. I was like, "Cool, let's do it. I don't mind." And it was just kind of a case of saying goodbye to everyone, packing our stuff, and then next minute we were in England. And once I was in England, yeah, there was a culture shock because obviously I didn't speak any English. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have my favorite sweets anymore. I didn't have my crisps that I liked that were Polish. I grew up in Poland. Everything I knew was Poland. So that was kind of different, just adjusting to things like that. But once I got going, I kind of, again, because I was so young, you picked everything up so quickly, you make friends. And before I knew it, I didn't even like miss Poland, if that makes sense. This was just home now. You kind of like, you're here now. This is what I'm doing.
What do you think about your return to Poland? Is Piekary Śląskie much different from how you remember it?
Yeah. To be
Change?
honest, yeah, like as soon as I got there, I remembered everything. Like I knew where everything was. I knew how to get to places. But what I didn't like, yeah, I didn't like what they done to the blocks. Before they used to be like grey. They used to be character, and like probably from like the governments and people like that, they're like, oh, we need to change that to make it look more nice. But I loved that about it. Do you know what I mean? I loved the fact that there was like grittiness, there was dirty blocks, there was like trash on the floor. I was like, that is home. Do you know what I mean? That is what I wanted to see when I come back. So like obviously my auntie still lives there, and my grandma still lives there as well. So we talked beforehand, and she was like, yeah, they've changed everything. I was like, oh no, man, like why did they do that? And it kind of looked, yeah, it looked a bit too colorful. It wasn't really like, it didn't feel like home anymore because it was so different to the way I left it. But yeah, there's certain things that are still very much the same. Like the shops are still in the same places. The school that I used to go to is still in the same place. So I made my way around nicely, but it was definitely different and a lot more modern. And it looks like, yeah, it's just a bit too pretty. Do you know what I mean? Too like they've tried too hard.
Tell me, Pat, where did the idea of for the song and this title Tyskie come from?
So when I was writing this song, I was kind of like in a bit of a weird place mentally. Like I was like, I didn't really know what I was doing in life, kind of thing. And I always thought back to childhood, and I remembered one thing I remembered is like you see the standard things, people getting drunk on benches, or it would be like the mums gathered outside the blocks and they would just have a coffee on like stools, and they would just kind of like look, and that's kind of like a coping mechanism. You know what I mean? Like people will always just like get together either on the bench with their friends, have a Tyskie, or the mums outside the blocks, they're having coffees and talking about life. And I kind of like I remembered that thought, and I was like, that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. And it was like I was thinking about where I want my life to go. And when I thought about them, they were kind of thinking about what they want to do in life, or maybe they're talking about their problems or things that have happened to them, or just reminiscing or looking forward. And that's kind of where the idea came from. And yeah, I used the metaphor as Tyskie is like, you're just sitting there having a beer whilst getting a bit deep into it, and that's kind of like well, my dad used to do it as well. You know what I mean? Like everyone around, that's what I saw as a kid. You'd have the men, they come back from work, you have a beer, and you just sit there and talk about the day you've had. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I put the song together, and I use Tyskie because it's kind of like a recognizable thing in England. People know what Tyskie is. You can get Tyskie in shops, so I wanted to make that link of me being Polish, but also like if an English person, they might not know 100%, but they'll be like, "Oh, okay, cool, I've heard of that." So it made sense to me. Do you know what I mean? So kind of speaking to the both sides of me, like Polish and English, I wanted everyone to kind of get involved.
And do you have any plans to release any new songs?
Yeah, so this is the third and final single off of my first EP. So I've released 3 songs so far, and this is the last one. And next month we're releasing a whole EP of 6 or 7 songs. I think 6 songs on there, and it's ready and it's coming out. So yeah, there's definitely more music, and after that we've got more in the pipeline. We're not stopping. So the music is number one. The rest, the TikTok stuff, and the rest is always like in the background. I just have fun on that, but music has always been number one. So yeah, definitely loads more to come.
How
hmm
are Poles perceived in England? What kind of, the stereotypes are often, repeated?
So it's a funny one, really, because there's a lot. I like to laugh about it as well. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that generally Polish people are presented in a certain way. There's loads of different ways that people view it. You know what I mean? You've got the classic, obviously, people that just like work, builders, warehouse people, hard working. I think general, like everyone I speak to when they talk about Polish people, it's like they're always hardworking. There's definitely a different attitude of how Polish people deal with things than it is in England. In England everything's a bit polite. Do you know what I mean? We'll do a meeting, we'll sit down, have a coffee, and we'll be like, okay, we're gonna solve this problem by doing this. Whereas the Polish attitude to things, which I prefer to be honest, is like, right, cool, this is what's wrong, this is how we're gonna fix it, and we're gonna do it now. You know what I mean? There's no like beating around the bush. There's no like dressing it up pretty or being polite. I think we're very upfront, and that's what I love. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to be beating around the bush and talking for ages when you don't need to. I think so. That's one way that Polish people are presented. But yeah, it's mainly the attitude, the working wise, how hard working they are. That's what I get the most. And also, you get the people that are like just dressing in tracksuits and posted drinking beer and that. But you get that everywhere, and you get that with every single nation. So it's mostly positive, though. I can't even lie to you. The Polish community, there's a big Polish community, especially where I live in Bedford. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Is there something, what would you like to tell, maybe not only me, but people who would like read it about you?
I'd probably say to people that that's very kind of you, by the way. But I'm just a normal guy. I'm literally just a normal person that's just doing normal things. Like I'm just in my bedroom every day. Yeah, I'm doing what I love. And if there's anything I would want to say is to especially the Polish people reading is that don't let where you're from define what you do, if that makes sense. So I'm from Piekary-Śląskie, which is a place in the middle of nowhere, and no one knows where it is. Like when you're going on holiday, you're not going there, but you can be whatever you want, no matter where you're from. Do you know what I mean? Like you can make things happen, and there's life outside the small areas that you're from. Like there isn't just one way of living. You can do things differently. I know, especially in Poland and especially in neighborhoods that we're from, some people might be a bit closed-minded and look like, oh, you can't do that. Why can you do that? But you can branch out. You can do whatever you want, basically, and just have fun with it. And that's what I've done, really. I've just sort of went, cool, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna have fun, and now here we are, and I'm just thankful that I'm here.
Okay, so I can tell you that I will keep my fingers crossed for you
Thank
and
you.
for your career. I mean, thank you, Pat. I really, really thank you. And I appreciate that you find, some time for me and for, the short interview.
It was really good. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, and I wish you all the best. So have a nice day. I keep
You too.
my fingers crossed for you, and maybe see you in Poland.
Definitely. Right. Take care. Bye bye.